Rebuilding Gali Mata out of system bricks was definitely the most difficult challenge I have faced out of this entire series. Let me explain. Gali is a fan favorite character, so I wanted to make sure that I did her justice. That I couldn't just rely on the more masculine frames from my previous builds. I needed to come up with something more sleek and feminine. But not only that, y'all have also been leaving a lot of great feedback on the arm designs for Kopaka and Tahu. So I had to step out of my comfort zone and incorporate a few retired pieces from a discontinued LEGO subsystem. Seriously, I had to level up my style and learn new techniques to pay homage to the original Mommy of Matanui. But there is one thing that I absolutely hate about this build. But enough yapping, let's break it down. Here's what I'm thinking for the torso. I've been using these hexagonal plates as the basis for the male Toa since the beginning of this series. But this won't work for Gali because she's a female character. So I'm gonna try to come up with a design that is about 4 studs wide instead of 6 studs. I also wanna give her a sort of scuba diver aesthetic. So I want to incorporate some sort of air tank or backpack with a water propulsion system or something to help her get through the water more quickly. Cool, let's start building. All right, let's kick things off with the backpack. Start with a few of these curved slope tiles, and then we're gonna get one of these socket bricks that looks a little bit like an engine. That's gonna help us create the aesthetic that she's a diver. Then to build up the shoulders, we're gonna use one of these anti-slope plate things with 4 studs in the connection points at the top. Then we'll throw in a socket brick with a ball on it so that we can attach the gear a little bit later. Right on. I'm gonna put a couple of these brackets in just to fill out the rest of the build. And then I'm gonna throw a couple more brackets at the top to cover up the gray that's gonna be in her shoulder bricks. We're gonna make sure everything's the right height by adding in a couple of plates. Okay, for the next stock, the design is pretty similar to previous builds, just a mini ball joint and a mini socket plate. We're gonna click that into place. Perfect. Okay, now we're gonna throw in a couple of those 1x2 socket bricks. This is gonna be super fun for later. We'll add in a couple of Technic bricks with axle holes. This is gonna be super important for our arm design. So make sure that the height is right and that you can see through the entire build when this is connected. Okay, we're gonna use the same old ratchet brick for the waist connection. And then we're going to plate off each side with a couple of these brackets and vents for mechanical vibes. We'll throw in a 2x3 plate here and a curved slope here with a couple of regular slopes on top. And then we'll cap everything off with this curved slope brick thing. I'm not really sure what it's called. All right, moving on to the pelvis. This design is gonna be super similar to the ones we've done in the past. Socket brick, double ball brick, a couple of brackets on each side so that we can plate it up later. We're gonna throw in a blue Technic plate right here and a blue bracket right here with another blue standard plate and cap it off with a pentagon tile. Perfect. We're gonna put in a couple of these bar plates on the side just so it looks like she's got a little bit of a utility belt, and we'll click the torso into place. We'll go ahead and throw the head on just to make sure that all of the spacing and proportions look good, and there you have it. Okay, let's move on to the arms. I want them to be more sleek than the other builds, but I'm not sure that I'll be able to do that with system bricks. So I'm thinking of using a few CCBS bone pieces with some sort of armor plating instead. For her claws, I feel like it would be kind of lame just to attach them to an axle hole and call it a day. But then it hit me. What if we made the claws retract in some way, kind of like the ones that you see on submersibles? Okay, here are the pieces that I'm gonna use for the arm design. This is what we're gonna use that axle hole from earlier for, to put in a shoulder bar. We're going to place in a couple of black bushings to make sure the spacing is right and throw in a ball with cross hole on either side. It was really fun experimenting with these CCBS bone pieces, but they're also the part of the build that I hate the most because they don't come in the appropriate colors, like light blue for the arm design, but that's okay. I'm gonna throw in one of these shell pieces and an old Bionicle hand joint. And then we're going to give her some claws made up of these like blue claws that I got from a Wolverine mech and a T-bar. We're gonna slot that into place. Surprisingly got a lot of friction for such a light connection. Okay, for the articulating arm, I went through a bunch of designs, but landed on this one. We're gonna use a couple of these gray bar hole clip pieces, and we're gonna build up 2 of these little assemblies and attach them to a T-bar. Next, we're going to use a T-bar modified with axle hole to hold the actual claw. What's great about those armor shell pieces is that they have these little holes for bars to slot into. They were originally used for layering in additional armor, but I'm going to attach our articulating arm to it by putting the claw on the end, and you can see here that it pops in and out, and I absolutely love that, because then Gali can use this when she needs it and put it away when she doesn't. Okay, let's talk about the legs. Priority number one are the curves, and I mean we need to put in lots of curves. I think it would be cool to go with some type of mix between Ochako's Gravity Girl costume and Jenny the Teenage Robot. I used a similar design for a recent series of Exoforce builds that will be hitting the channel early next year, so make sure you're subbed if you want to catch that. Here are all the parts you're going to need. We're going to start things off with a thigh and a couple of socket bricks. We're going to build up a little sub-assembly in blue as a callback to the original color scheme. And then we're going to throw a bracket and ingot because it's a BKH bricks build on the inner thigh. Now to throw in some more curves, we're going to use some of these anti-slope curve tiles. Next, moving on to the shin. These pieces are super important. Just make sure that you've got a couple of those plates on the inside, and we're going to build up a little knee assembly to make sure that the whole thing stays together. We're going to lay down a few 1x2 lower brackets. Perfect. And then we're going to throw in this knee assembly right at the top. Great. Next, we're going to use a socket brick here, and that's going to hold our ankle into place. We're going to put a couple more brackets on top, and then we're going to use these socket bricks that we normally use for our shoulder connections down by the ankle. That's going to make a lot of sense later. Throw in a 1x2 standard plate here just to make sure that everything connects properly. And then we're going to use one of these big curved bow pieces to finish out the general design. But in order to lock everything down, we're going to need to use a couple of these 2x3 plates on either side. We use a couple of these curved slope tiles to give us a good shape. Then we're going to put a couple of tiles here and a couple of 1x2 tiles in dark blue on the side with a pentagonal tile on the front, and that's going to round out our general design. I love using these pieces right here in creative ways, and I think that it's going to make the shin look like it has a little like propeller for underwater movement. This gives us an opportunity to add a little character to the build, and you can honestly put whatever pin connection you want here, but the ratcheting sound on this is just so satisfying. Okay, perfect. Let's move on to the feet. We're going to build up a little assembly for the ankle with a ball, a bushing, and a couple of axle bricks. You're going to need 2. Perfect. Let's throw in a bracket on either side. We'll throw in a plate on the back, a couple of slopes in the front, and we'll lock everything into place with a rounded 1x2 plate. Perfect. Let's click in the ankle to the shin, and then we'll click in the shin to the thigh, and we're done. Just make sure you double this up and mirror it. Perfect. Okay, for our final assembly, we'll put the arms in place and add in a few more details. This is looking pretty good, but I think that we can add in a few more mechanical vibes or even scuba diver vibes. So I found a couple of these hose pieces that we are going to attach to the back to the gear stock and plug into that socket brick from earlier. Nice. Now that is looking good. All we got to do is add in the gear and boom. We'll throw in the original mask for Gali, and I think this turned out brickin' sick. Oh my gosh. You know, the only thing, like I said, that I really don't like about this build is that those upper arm pieces don't come in the right shade of blue. That is just really, it's bothering me. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Here she is in comparison to Tahu, and you can see that she's got a little bit lower of a shoulder sit. And here she is in comparison to the original Gali build. So thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.